Alright, the goal of this lesson is to find the slope given 2 points. Now, slope is defined as rise over run, or your change in y over change in x. Therefore, we have to figure out our change in y divided by our change in x. So notice we take our 2 y values and subtract them on top, and I take our 2 x values and subtract them on the bottom. So the first thing we do when we're finding slope is we'll stack those numbers on top of each other. So we have 9, 2, and the point 7, 8. So I'm going to go ahead and put 7, 8 on top of the other, underneath the other point. And my first numbers are my x's and my second are my y's. Again, these are my x's, and these are my y's. It's hard to see. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is draw myself a fraction bar, and I know that I'm subtracting on both the top and the bottom of the fraction. So again, I take my y's on top, I do 2, go ahead and drop those in there, 2 minus 8 on top, and I have 9 minus 7 on the bottom. I go ahead and figure that out. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, 9 minus 7 is 2, and if I divide those in the calculator I get negative 3. Number 2, I'm going to take negative 5, negative 8, and negative 5, 0 and find the slope between those. So I'll drop negative 5, 0 below, keeping in mind that these are my x's and these are my y's. A little bit easier to see that way. Again, my first set is my x, my second set's my y. I'll draw up a fraction bar with a minus on both the numerator and the denominator. And again, I subtract my y's on the top, negative 8 minus 0, and then my x's on the bottom, negative 5 minus negative 5. Negative 8 minus 0 is negative 8. Negative 5 minus negative 5, that's actually negative 5 plus 5, which is 0. And if I type negative 8 and divided by 0 into the calculator, I get error. In math and slope, this is what we call undefined. Or, undefined can also be written as a 0 with a slash through it. Again, I'm going to find the slope between negative 2, negative 1, and negative 8. And negative 8, 4. So I'm going to drop negative 8, 4 down here. Again, these are my x's and these are my y's. I'll circle my x's in blue. And I'll circle my y's in yellow. So again, if I draw a fraction bar and put my subtraction symbols on the top and the bottom, again, my y's go in the numerator, negative 1 and 4. My x's go in the denominator, which is negative 2 and negative 8. If I subtract negative 1 minus 4, that's negative 5. Negative 2 minus negative 8, that's actually negative 2 plus 8, which is going to be 6. If I type negative 5 divided by 6 in the calculator, I get a decimal. But if you hit math, enter, enter, that will put my decimal back into a fraction in simplest form, and you'll find out that negative 5/6 is actually in simplest form. And our last example, I want to find the slope between the points 7, 2 and 1, 2. So I'm going to drop 1, 2 below the other point. 7 and 1 are my x values. 2 and 2 are my y values. Again, I'm subtracting on the numerator and the denominator, keeping in mind that I subtract my y's on the numerator, 2 minus 2, x's go on the denominator, 7 minus 1, 2 minus 2 is 0, 7 minus 1 is 6. If I do 0 divided by 6 in the calculator, that is 0. So again, the big idea is here, subtract your y's on the top, subtract your x's on the bottom. Math enter enter will simplify your fraction if you divide it in the calculator. And the last thing to be careful of is when you have a 0 in the denominator. We call that undefined, or a 0 with a slash through it, which also means undefined. A 0 in the numerator, or the top of your fraction, means that you have a slope of 0.